Giving you the real from A to Z surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with A to Z Sports. Live with Will Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Hip, hip. Good morning, good people. Welcome to A to Z Sports Live. We're streaming live from Hattie B's, baby. And of course, I am your host, Will Skywalker. Still, boom. How's my audio? How's the video? Are we coming in cool? Y'all know how it gets sometimes when we remote, but we are here. We are live from Hattie B's Hot Chickens, ladies and gentlemen. Down here in Deep Ellum today, it's a Fan Friday. It's a Hattie B's Friday. So we opened up the mailbag segment, and we're going to spice it up a little bit. We got Patrick No C Walker coming in here in a few minutes, and we are going to talk about a lot of these questions with Pat. So we're switching up something different on this Friday out here. Y'all know we got the laptop fixed a little bit here, so we can get back to kind of our normal way we do things when we are remote. So hopefully everything is good to go. Anyway, though, what's good, Bomb Squad? How y'all doing this morning?
Bomb Squad!
Buffering? Yeah. All right, man. We gonna try to get through it. As long as you can hear me, it looks like I'm coming through smooth enough. I'm peeking down at my phone here to make sure we good to go. As long as y'all can hear me, as long as we're coming through smooth, as long as you can hear Pat, we will be good to go, Cowboys Nation. So I do kind of want to jump into it, but I'm tempted to hold tight just a little bit. This first question here is a pretty good question. By the way, shouts out to Twitter. Twitter has some fantastic questions. I think we got a couple questions from Instagram. Usually we get the YouTube questions, but we got them from Twitter and we got them from Instagram. You guys dropped some really good questions that I want to dive into today with y'all. Obviously, I know how this go. You can participate in that manner, and you can also call in after we get Pat on the horn. 351-999-3787 is the call-in line. And look, it's Friday. You know, if you need to come somewhere for lunch and you're down here in the DFW area or Dallas downtown area, stop by. Come holler at us down here at Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Let's get right into it. While we playing around, let's just get right into our mailbag segment. And I want to start off with Mr. Ed Helinski. I hope I said that name right. Y'all know I'll be butchering him. Mr. Ed Helinski, by the way, who was an editor, I think, for the WWF, which I think is pretty damn cool. I want to start off with this question because I'm going to probably eventually lean into Pat in regards to his answer as well. But it was an interesting way he put this one. He said, quote, or question, in your opinion, will it be the precision of a scalpel, a chainsaw, or maybe a pizza cutter on how the Cowboys shape their offseason roster? Or maybe another tool will be used. I just know y'all got some answers here for me. So he said a scalpel, a chainsaw, or a pizza cutter. Scalpels are usually used by surgeons, right, y'all? Surgeons are usually at the top of their game in how they operate. I don't think that's the Cowboys front office. With all due respect, I don't think that's Stephen Jones. I don't think that's Jerry and them boys. And as much as I like Will McClay's ability to try to, scout for player personnel, he ain't the general manager. So I don't think it'll be a scalpel. A chainsaw indicates to me that, F it, we all in. I don't got time to be precise. Let's bring out the heavy machinery. Let's hack away at this thing to find answers. If we don't, we got the wood to build in the aftermath. I don't think that's them either. You know where I'm going, right? It's a pizza cutter. You know why it's a pizza cutter? Because this man is all about the pie.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
You can't, it's a perfect tool. Steven is going to talk about the pie. Everything is about the pie. Hell, you could even argue they'll use the damn scalpel on the pie. Yeah. They'll be precise in how they divvy up this pie. They will treat this pie. They'll salvage it like it's the end of days. And hey man, this gotta last. This is all we got. Screw this pizza cutter. Give me the scalpel, man. A little bit of money here to CD, to Micah, Dak. Oh, we ain't got no more. All done. That's not how that works, Jerry. It's not how it works, Steven. So I think they will attack this thing from a pizza cutter standpoint. Fun question here. Do you think they will attack the offseason in a precise scalpel way, get a chainsaw and hack away, or a pizza cutter? Or do you have another tool in mind, Cowboys Nation? And as you guys take a look at that, let me load up Patrick No-C Walker here. Okay. I know what's going on, Pat. I got you, brother. I got you. Hold tight. I know what's happening here. Bada bing, bada boom. Realest guys in the room. Playback. Bow. Let's see if we got Pat now. Let me see. Hey, Pat, you got me? Here we go. All right, Cowboys Nation, let's go ahead. I won't be able to bring in my guy the way I want to bring in my guy because we don't have my machinery to make this thing work. But nonetheless, it is Patrick No-C Walker joining us here this morning on the Scientific Method. And, of course, he works for the one and only DallasCowboys.com. What's good, Pat?
Damn, man. You're already in full off-season mode, huh? I can't even get my theme music.
Yeah, I can't. I'm sorry. I don't have the theme music today, brother. Give me my theme music. I can't do it today, but I got you next time, fam. I got you next time. How we doing this morning?
I know, man. I know. All good. I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm out here just traveling a little bit out here in North Carolina with some family, man. Just stretching the off-season legs before the NFL Combine gets jumped off. But, we got some things to talk about here.
Yeah, see, I didn't want to be nosy, but I had Peep the other day. He was like, hey, Zimmer ended his press conference right. I was getting on a plane. I'm like, oh, where Pat going, man? We got some Zim news going on down. Where the hell you going, man? But you over there in North Carolina. That's your hometown, right?
Man. No. Georgia boy. Come on
Georgia
now.
boy. That's right. I knew it was down south. But got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Georgia boy. So I obviously got family in GA, got family out here in NC. So I come to the Triangle quite often. Shouts out to my folks out here in the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham area. I'm just out here getting some Bojangles, some cookout. You know what I mean? You know, doing
some
it how
Hattie
you're supposed
B's.
to do it. Pure wine kind of day. Yeah.
Just some Hattie B's.
No barbecue though. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, no barbecue. Yeah, some Patty B's, but no barbecue. We don't do that barbecue. Not NC barbecue. Sorry, folks.
Would you like the Texas barbecue? I'd imagine. All right.
Oh, 100%. So Texas, Georgia, Tennessee. You know, it's North Carolina and South Carolina barbecue. I can't get with it. South Carolina with the mustard base, I can't get with it, and North Carolina with the vinegar base, I can't get with it. So, but outside of that, love me some NC, love me some North Carolina.
Let me put a little seasoning on today's segment then for you since we're talking about barbecue, okay? I want to pull you in here on our mailbag segment. I was just sitting here talking about this one question. I didn't even, send this one to you, but I thought it was interesting. Ed, I think it's Ed Helinsky. He asked this question. In your opinion, will it be a precision of a scalpel, chainsaw, or pizza cutter on how the Cowboys shape their offseason? I thought that was a fantastic question. Scalpel, chainsaw, or pizza cutter, Pat?
Scalpel, chainsaw, or pizza cutter. Well, the scalpel is out the window because they're changing defensive coordinator, so it's definitely bigger than a scalpel. And then you lose Joe Witt as well, so now we're certainly bigger than the scalpel. But it's not as big as a chainsaw because same head coach, same offensive coaching staff, so no changes there. I go with pizza cutter. Let's split the difference. I think that, there's definitely been enough change where you can say that they've carved some they're able to carve some slices out and replace them with some new ones. But when we talk about Zimmer and some of the changes that are going to be made, you lose Aiden Dirty as well to the Seattle Seahawks. So that's a big impact. You got to get a guy in here who's going to fill that void as well. But they do keep a guy like Al Harris. Rejoice. Everyone should definitely rejoice for that. But still a little bit of a shakeup coming because we don't know exactly who Mike Zimmer is going to bring in. I kind of get the feel that he's had maybe one or two guys that might have been players for him at some point, be it with the Cowboys or probably with the Cowboys because at that point they'd be old enough to enter the coaching ranks. So it'll be interesting to see. But of those three things, it's definitely not a chainsaw because a chainsaw kind of invokes thoughts of a whole rebuild, and that's not what's happening. But it's not as small as a scalpel because some major pieces have been either removed or lost. So yeah, let's go with pizza cutter.
I loved how you viewed this because I looked at it totally different. I said the pizza cutter because Stephen Jones is always talking about the pie. So that's just how I looked at it. It's a perfect fitting.
Well played. I almost went with full bars and was like pizza cutter because that's what they're looking to do to Kellen Moore, the pizza boy, when they face the Eagles. But I was like, you know what? Let me come back off the bars. But thanks for giving me an opportunity to drop that though, because that was in my head. I call Kellen Wonder Bread because they call him Wonder Boy. I call him Wonder Bread. That's a whole different discussion. All right, let's get to the second question. Wait for the season.
Let's get to the second question, Pat. And I like this one too, by the way. Shouts out to David on Twitter. He says, "How do you handle the running back position? In my opinion, I would sign Zach Moss and draft another back in the 2nd to 4th round. Where are you on Deuce Vaughn? Is he an afterthought, or could he still be effective if used right?" So twofold here. First, let's start with the first part. How would you handle the running back position?
Well, first and foremost, you have to decide, or I feel like you have to decide between Tony Pollard or Rico Dowdle. And the thing for me is I'm fine with keeping either of the two, but I don't know that keeping both of them would be the wise move because I want to see more brutality in tandem with kind of a change of pace guy. So if you're going to keep Tony and revert him back to the role of RB2 where he excelled, then you need to get him a brutal RB1, kind of like Ezekiel Elliott was. And of course, my eyes go to Derrick Henry for that being another example. But then the same thing goes for Rico Dowdle. As much as I love Rico Dowdle, his skill set is not completely dissimilar from Tony Pollard. So if you keep Rico Dowdle, then for me, that's my change of pace, my RB2. We've seen Rico come in as the RB2, and he, made some waves in 2023. But then again, still need that bruiser at RB1. I would keep one of those two guys for continuity's sake. They've both shown that they can be effective RB2s. You got to get you an RB1. I say you go into the draft. You go into free agency and you get you an RB1 if that guy's name is a Derrick Henry. If not, then maybe you look to the draft to do that. Either way, I think there's a major shakeup. Now you're talking chainsaw. Okay, there's a chainsaw coming to the running backs room, in my opinion. And going to the second part of the question, which is the Deuce Vaughn variable, I mean, we all want to see Deuce Vaughn do more and be given more opportunities. But we also have seen that in the opportunities he's been given, he's not really lived up to what we feel that he can be and what the team feels that he can be. And that's why he ended up, on injured reserve for the most part. So, and inactive list for a lot of his rookie season. So you got to wonder, at this point, what does his second training camp look like? Can Deuce Vaughn beat out Malik Davis? Hell, he beat out Snoop Connor, who was signed on a futures deal. So, I mean, that's a variable as well. But then, I look at the draft, and I feel like this is a draft where you can get a very good, possibly a starting running back without using one of your first two picks on it. I mean, it could be a late day 2, early day 3, and you can get somebody that's quite effective, like the kid out of Michigan. And I tweeted it when I was watching Michigan play in the college football playoff. That guy is somebody that I would love to have in Dallas. And I know Dallas Cowboys fans are like, oh, no more Wolverines. Okay, just relax. Don't blame the school, right? We hold the player accountable, not the school. But that's just an example of what I mean. I going into training camp, I think that this running backs room is going to look wildly different. I would prefer that it look wildly different from what it did a year ago.
Yeah, my answer, and the fans know this here.
Oh,
Watch
and
the
then
show.
Hunter Lipke. Yeah.
I
We got to
forgot
give
about
love to
Lipke.
Hunter. So Hunter Lipke, Hunter Lipke, he started to come on as the season progressed. So that also is going to present a bigger challenge for the likes of Deuce Vaughn and even Malik Davis as well, and even Snoop Connor, because it looks like Hunter Lipke is starting to find his groove with Mike McCarthy. And if that's the case, then now Hunter becomes de facto RB3/fullback duties, and now you're really having everybody fight for RB1 versus RB2. But there's not an RB1 on this roster right now. You got to go and get one.
Yeah, the Lipke thing definitely throws a bit of a wrench in there, but he comes around to, for me, I believe it when I see it, because look at training camp. I thought Lipke was going to be a guy to hand the ball off to. Then we get to the season, he became a guy that was going to block, but they didn't really ask him to block a whole lot. So until the end of the year, so he's a weird case to me. I'm gonna keep my eye on him though in the offseason for sure.
But you know what's true? That's true. But it's also true that thought process also applies to Deuce Vaughn. That thought process also applies to Malik Davis. That thought process, of course, applies to the new guy coming in, Snoop Connor. And even when you go upwards and you look at the top two spots coming off of the 2023 depth chart, Tony Pollard, right? You know what Tony Pollard is as an RB2, but as an RB1, even coming out of a full season of him being RB1, we still are looking at Tony Pollard and saying, you can be an RB1, we'll believe it when we see it. You're looking at Rico Dowdle and saying, well, we've seen that you can be effective as RB2. We don't know if you can be an RB1. Believe it when you see it. Every single running back on the Cowboys' current roster, that logic applies to, and that's why there needs to be a major shakeup, because there's no one you can point at and say, that's my guy, and then you can figure out the change of pace from there. So they got to find the guy.
Yeah, so for me, I look at the running game, especially in Dallas, as instead of RB1, RB2, I look at it as RB duo or RBBC, like a running back by committee. Because I'm of belief in today's age, it is more so about two guys or a stable of guys, and the old adage of having one dude that's going to get you 25 or so touches week in, week out is over. But I also believe it starts with the mentality of running the ball, and the Cowboys don't have that to me. So, while, yes, this is my plan technically for the actual position. I would sign a vet running back, and then I'd draft a guy on day 2 or 3 of the draft. But more importantly, man, I need that to have a plan come with it. I need that plan at the position to complement each other. As much as, Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, I don't think that was a great complementary position group. Yes, Rico Dowdle is a hard, tough runner, and Tony's a slasher, but you thought maybe Lipke could be the guy that could be the 230 guy, hey, hand it off in the red zone, but he never did it much, right? So it really wasn't a complimentary room. So for me, I would like them to have a true plan and also complement the room. So that could be a whole bunch of different things. You say, well, maybe you bring back Tony, but you complement him with the power guy. You bring back Rico, complement him with another guy. Hell, even if you draft a guy in day 2 or 3, maybe you sign, somebody that's a complementary piece to that afterwards. But I'm more about it's the how, not necessarily always the style of runner behind the line. Because if you don't block it up, and if you don't really have a plan in running it, you just will look like in my opinion, how the Cowboys look this year. I felt like, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I felt like, to me, Pat, they viewed the run game as a throwaway option. It never really was they were unserious about it. And when it was time to really run, they couldn't, because they didn't really know how. So what happened? Now it's all on 4, it's all on 88, and if that fails, there's no insurance. And I didn't like that.
Right, and you make an excellent point. And let me clarify that I actually am right there with you as far as it being complimentary. When I say there's no one in the room that you can look at and say that's the guy, I'm speaking just to the task of RB1. And I go back to the Skip Pete administration, and the thing that I loved about Skip Pete, and I wrote a piece on this because he and I had a good conversation about it, the sledgehammer and the sword. The sledgehammer and the sword. The way Skip Pete operated was, it wasn't about necessarily who was the starter. It was about the fact that Ezekiel Elliott's skill set was completely complementary to Tony Pollard's and vice versa. And that's how they worked well, and that's why the Cowboys had such an effective run game when those two complementary styles were in the building. What they're missing right now, like you said, is they're missing that complementary style. Everything Tony Pollard can do, Rico Dowdle can do. Everything Rico Dowdle can do, Tony Pollard can do. And the problem is those are your two top running backs. So no matter which one is in the game, the defense doesn't have to adjust. They already have the timing down. One thing that Skip Pete pointed out, which was magnificent, was that he would play Ezekiel Elliott to, 1 down, 2 down, 3 downs to get the timing set up for the linebackers on the opposite side of the ball, and then he'd throw Tony in there who's quicker, who's a little bit faster. But now the angle, the approach, and the point of attacks are different. So they think that because now they have muscle memory over the last few snaps playing against Ezekiel Elliott, if I get to this point right now, that's a tackle for Ezekiel Elliott. But when it's Tony Pollard, if you get to that particular point, Tony's already gone. The problem in 2023 was it's Tony, and then you enter Rico, and guess what? It's the same quickness. It's the same. So you got to get somebody that's complimentary is what I'm saying.
And, Pat, let's be completely honest here. It was Tony. Hey, Rico. Tony. There we go. Tony. It was hardly ever Tony, Rico. It was hardly.
Yeah. It wasn't even a split duty.
Yeah, I feel like Rico I didn't feel like I did the research, but you can go look at the numbers. I think he has some along the lines of like 10 games with less than 7 carries, man. Might even been more than that. Probably was more than that.
Yep.
But it never – and this is what blew my mind, Pat. You brought up TP and Zeke, right, the tandem. That is the process, in my opinion. That's how you do it. You can swap out these two guys. I have no problem with that. But that's how, in my opinion, you do it. How do you see that for the last 3 years? You worked your way finally, because it took like 2 seasons for you to work Tony in there as a true tandem with Zeke. And you saw that have some success, and then all of a sudden you franchise tag Tony Pollard after you saw what it was like giving the ball to Zeke so many times in 1 year and he gets wore down. You franchise tag him and you say, well, because we pay him, he's got to be the guy that toasts the rock 80% of the time. And look what happened. It took him a while coming back from the injury. How do you look at just the success you had? And when I say success, it's success, but it never really followed over in the postseason. But the success you had in the regular season for the most part with the tandem backfield, and then you get to this season and you say, we're just going to roll with Tony Pollard. If you would have told me back in March, I would have said, scrap this whole entire plan. Screw franchise tagging Tony.
It was never going to work.
Come on, man. That's never going to work. So the plan has to change.
Especially when you consider one of the underlying concerns going into last season when it came to Tony Pollard was that he had not been the feature back since high school. That point had been hammered home 1,000 times over the course of the months that went into the regular season.
Yeah.
What can Tony Pollard be as a feature back, considering he had not been a feature back in Memphis? He hadn't been a feature back since high school. And then what's your plan? Your plan is to make him the feature back to the point where it's not even a tandem anymore. Now we're completely looking at Tony Pollard in 2023 and saying, you know what? We're going to put you on a franchise tag, $10+ million, fully guaranteed. And as I'm sitting here wondering if that was contractual as well, in the aspect of, okay, if you want a long-term extension, then show us that you can carry most of the entire load. But that should have never been the plan.
Yeah, that's silly.
Should have never been the plan. But it turns out that, be it contractual or any other reason, that was in fact the plan, was to turn him into a feature back, a guy who had been a feature back since high school, and at the expense of another guy, Enrico, who was productive, very productive in the touches that he got. So the whole plan, like you said, was doomed to fail from the beginning, if that was in fact the plan from the beginning, and that cannot be a mistake that's repeated. You need to upgrade the run game, and I do like that Mike McCarthy admitted that the run game was subpar. He outright admitted it. Okay, cool. It was below the line is how he put it. Fine. This is how you get it above the line. First of all, make sure that your offensive line is blocking how it needs to. Health is going to be what health is. Hopefully guys stay healthy. But regardless of who is in, you need to make sure that they're all on the same page. That goes to offensive line coaching as well, which is a story for another day. But then when you look at the running back core, again, first question, what's your plan? Is your plan to have one guy be a feature back? Because if that is your plan, then you have no one on the roster who can do that. No one. Second of all, being that needs not to be your plan, you need to identify a complementary talent to either Tony or Rico, and then have those other guys, Malik and Hunter and Deuce and Snoop, fight for it behind them in training camp and let that kind of sort itself out. But again, chainsaw, because the running game, I'm not going to say that it was a mess last year because it wasn't. I wrote it, one of the Science Lab columns was that it was too middling for me. That was the problem. It was too middling. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. And then when it came to the point where it had to be good, like you said, it couldn't be good because it hadn't been good all year.
Yeah,
so
it wasn't reliable
for the offense to get together. No, not at all.
Yeah.
But to be fair to the run game, like you said, it was never really given a chance to be reliable. The plan going into the season for the run game was doomed to fail, as we just sat here and said. The group of talent that you had, the only complementary piece that you really had was Deuce, but he didn't step up as a rookie to provide what you needed, so that completely left you with basically a doppelganger and an original. So you had Tony and Rico, which is his doppelganger as far as skill set is concerned, but those two things don't complement each other because they're the same thing. So there's no change of pace. There was one pace, and it made it easier for teams to key in on it when the Cowboys decided to run the ball, which was not often. So it became a one-dimensional team, and it's great that you can pass the ball and light up the scoreboard that way. Let's be clear, folks, we are not taking away from that because we've been waiting to see that from the Cowboys for a few years. I know we had it with Kellen, with the Amari Cooper, era and things like that, but it kind of went back to running and now it's back to passing. Great. Where's the balance, though? Where's the fact that when your passing game is struggling, as it will a game or two, why can't you run the ball? And you can't run the ball because your plan was faulty and you don't have the complementary pieces to do so.
And while we're spending a lot of time, this is my final thought on it here, on the actual players, I am very heavy on the scheme here because if you go look around the league, we talk about like San Fran, I know they have CMC now, but San Fran, Buffalo, Detroit, Washington, Miami. I mean, these guys have schemes that are plug and play for a talented back. You don't necessarily have to be a Derrick Henry in his prime. You can be David Montgomery. You can be Jared Cook. You can be Elijah Mitchell. You can be Jeff Wilson. You can be Raheem Mostert, 31 years old, and he leads the league in rushing touchdowns because their scheme is in place. Hell, if you look at Washington, they didn't even like to run the ball. But when they did run the ball, they had a pretty high yards per carry in doing so. So if I'm looking at Mike Solari, I'm looking at whoever the run game coordinator is, you guys need to come up with a scheme that can be plug and play because, in my opinion, that is the wave now moving forward, the future of the run game.
At the end of the day, everything you said is 100% accurate, and what the Cowboys need to do is scrap everything they had planned for the run game going into 2023 and get right back to the drawing board. Look at 2022, look at 2021, say, okay, why were we successful? Hey, hell, go all the way back to 2016. From 2016 forward, why were we successful? We were successful because we had an offensive line that could get the job done. We had an offensive line coach that could get the job done. And we had a feature back that the league feared. And we had a complimentary back that was fearsome as well because when he came into the game, be it on a 51-49 split on any given direction, because sometimes it was Tony that actually started the game, right? Quiet as it's kept. Sometimes it was Zeke. But the fact that you had those two pieces that were so complimentary, you had the offensive line being coached up the right way, you had the right running scheme that was working effectively, that's what you need to get back to. So let's not get cute in 2024 because in 2023, I think they kind of out-talked themselves. Right?
Yeah.
Get back to the basics of what worked. And don't be afraid. Yeah, Skip Pete's no longer in the building, much to my chagrin, but feel free to borrow from his concepts, right? Because just because the teacher's not in the building doesn't mean the lessons had to leave with him.
Bars, as usual. This next question, I really wanted to get your opinion on this because you've been in that locker room. You know some of these players behind the scenes. And I have some thoughts as well on it. But good question here from Aaron. Watches the show all the time. Big supporter. Appreciate you. He says, who would be your obvious choice of player or players to take well to Zimmer's style? And who would be your not obvious player that could surprise us and adhere to harder coaching?
Oh, I think, I think a player like DeMarcus Lawrence is going to take well to Zimmer style. And Tank's very weird comments notwithstanding, that was so strange. I can't wrap my head around where that came from, the whole burnt out thing, because that's never been his
had a brain
bag.
fart.
I don't know where that came from. Yeah, either that or he was trying to protect somebody and he just threw himself under the bus, which is noble. But yeah, that's just not his character. But since that's not his character, I'm going to pretend that didn't happen. And overall, if you look at how Tank leads the locker room, as far as his aggressiveness and how hungry he is and how demanding he is, that guys are, playing to a certain standard, I think that's exactly what Mike Zimmer is coming in to do and hold guys accountable. Tank, he's the king of holding guys accountable in the locker room. He is not afraid to challenge you no matter who you are. Doesn't matter, because he's Tank, right? He's been here the longest. He's the one that could arguably be in the Ring of Honor one day if the rest of his career shapes up well. So there's no one in the locker room that doesn't respect Tank. And I think that when you look at his style of player coaching, because there's always this micro coaching going on from player to player as well within the locker room, I think that Mike Zimmer's style will marry exactly to what Tank has already been doing. So when it comes to Zimmer coaching Tank, I think that's an easy one. And there are others as well. I think Osa will definitely benefit from his style.
He's my surprise
you
guy.
can kind of go down the line as well. Yeah, you can go down the line. Now, here's who I'm interested to see, because I heard the other side of that question, who might take a moment to acclimate. I think it will go to some of the younger guys, and I'm zeroing in right on Mozzie Smith this one. And because, number one, we need to know what Zimmer's plan for Mozzie was, because whatever Quinn's plan for Mozzie,
Disaster.
No.
It was a disaster.
that was disastrous. Disastrous. And at the same time, it might have stolen some of the confidence from the young rookie. So Zimmer's going to come in, and hopefully the new plan for Mozzie Smith, reestablishes some confidence there. But Mozzie's going to have to get used to some tough coaching, and I wonder how he's going to react to that. And I'm not saying that to say that he's mentally soft or anything like that. I say that to say, when you're talking about a young guy in the second year going to a new defensive coordinator after having a down rookie season with the first defensive coordinator, you got a lot of things going on in your head as far as confidence that needs to be rebuilt, that you can play the position and that you can play at a high level, but also what position are you playing? Because you're sized up right now for 3-tech, but you came in at 1-tech, and Zimmer going to put you back at 1-tech, which means you got to put 30, 40 pounds back on. So there's going to be a lot going on for Mozzie Smith over the next several months with Mike Zimmer, and coaching style is going to be one of them. Plan is going to be the other one. Coaching up his technique, because as you heard Zimmer say, some of the things that make him quote-unquote grouchy, lack of fundamentals, lack of technique, lack of discipline. Technique, they're still trying to work on Mozzie Smith's technique. So Mozzie doesn't come along quickly enough. Zimmer gets grouchy. What does that dynamic look like? So we'll see how that works. I love Zimmer's coaching style for what the Cowboys need right now. I think it's perfect for what they need right now. I think guys like Tank will help kind of serve as a bridge to help guys like Mozzie Smith, some of these younger guys who've not been around a coaching style like Zimmer, kind of acclimate quickly. And you're going to need that, because Zim's coming in, and he's not coming in holding roses and Valentine's Day cards.
Nah. I got a few obvious answers here for who I think will take well, and one of them is a veteran if he returns, and Stephon Gilmore. He's a guy that, played under Bill Belichick, and Zim is a defensive backs coach, right? So I feel like whatever coaching that he gets, I think he'll actually lean on Steph, to be honest, and say, hey, man, this is what I need you to relay to these guys. Maybe not in the manner that I'm going to do it, but this is what I'm looking for, because he's very technical in his approach. And the other one is Trayvon Diggs. Diggs played under Nick Saban. I mean, this is not going to be a shocker to Diggs,
perfect.
bro. And Diggs is going to get coached by Zim. Trust and believe. There's and I wanted to chop it up, but I'm remote today. There's a audio out when he was talking to Marvin Lewis, and he was talking about Trayvon Diggs, and he was very complimentary of Diggs, but you can tell, see, Zim ain't been away like y'all think, but you can tell he's watching and studying him, because he's like, hey, sometimes technically he's flawed, but he's such a good player. He's able to make plays. He can be boom or bust, all the things that we know from Trayvon Diggs. So I'm pretty sure that Zimmer's going to come in and say, hey, Diggs, need you to clean up some things technically. You did that the previous season. Your interceptions went down, but you locked it up a little better, right? Imagine if we continue to develop that and you're now just completely shutting down the entire side of the field, a la Darrelle Revis type stuff. Not saying he'll go there, but if Zim can coach him up that way, I think Diggs can go right back to being an all-pro if he comes back healthy. So, Diggs, Gilmore, Wanye, because he talked about it. Wanye said, I want to be Coach Tart. I think those are obvious ones. A surprise, I got 2 surprise ones for you here. Sam Williams. Sam Williams could surprisingly adhere here because I think he needs it. And I think Sam Williams needs somebody to get on him in this manner, but not in a who was the defensive coordinator prior, not in a Mike Nolan way, Pat, but in a way where I'm gonna sit you down, I'm gonna give it to you real, but because I see the potential in you and you need this, and if he can't adhere, then Sam I think will be the next boss man fat. That's just how I look at it, Pat, for Sam Williams that is.
No, for Sam, that's going to be an interesting one, definitely, because Sam, I will say this, and I've said this before, while Sam has an issue sometimes with the self-discipline aspect of it, and you could talk about the penalties, some of the, the off-the-field things, whatever the case may be, though that's true. But it's also true that Sam Williams is extremely coachable. He is extremely coachable because he wants to be great. He wants to be on the field. He wants to do the right things. So because you have someone who's so wildly coachable like Sam, I think he'll take well to Mike Zimmer. I think he's going to eat that up, to be honest, because that Mike Zimmer's coming in, die hard, tough nose, hard-nosed ball coach. I think Sam, and it's not like Sam is himself not used to that. I mean, this is a Southern boy, right? This is Ole Miss. He's coming in with this, and I also
he got it from the mud. So
that's what I mean. So there you go. And then when you talk about Trayvon, yes, you're talking about a guy who came in coached by Nick Saban, who is an old school ball coach like Mike Zimmer, who's an old school ball coach like others like Steve Spurrier and things like that. If you were coached by Saban, you already know what's up. Yeah. But here's the added layer to it, and this is kind of what I was intimating pre-hire when it was just candidacy and we were ranking who we wanted and who we would have not preferred, and I was completely off the Rex Ryan thing, whatever. When you talk about Zimmer, for those that are unaware of Zimmer's coaching history, when he was first with the Cowboys, his first 13-year stint with the Cowboys, he started as a defensive assistant, and then he went to, guess what, folks, a defensive backs coach. He was a defensive backs coach. So he coached the likes of Terrence Newman. He coached Deion Sanders. And now you focus on him doing the same for Trayvon Diggs, doing the same for Deron Bland, and keeping a guy like Al Harris in the building. I mean, what we've seen from Trayvon Diggs, what we've seen from Deron Bland, special. I think that there is a chance that those things can be that much more special with Zimmer in the building. And now, guess what else you get? You get a guy like Zimmer, who was a talented DB's coach.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Pat? Dang, he was cooking. Pat, did you go under a bridge? Might have lost Pat here. Can y'all hear me though? If you can hear me, let me know. Let me see here. We should still be live on my end. So Pat can still hear me. All right, Pat. So what are we gonna do? Let's end the call here for you. Call back in, and let me see if I can pull you in that way and try to figure it out. But yeah, man, that question is a good question, and I think Diggs and Stephon are the obvious ones. My other surprise one I wanted to get his opinion on here too was DeMarvion Overshown. I just think just the brief time we've seen DeMarvion Overshown down at camp, his ability to be a coachable player, I think he's going to be a leader on his defense at some point. I said this last year, dating all the way back, it's on the record. There was an aura about DeMarvion Overshown. There was something to him that galvanized these veterans. You heard them talk about him in a similar way. No, I won't say that because they just like the way the dude played. But there was something about Demo, and I'm not really sure if he's going to be one position or the other. But it doesn't matter to me. I feel like if he gets back, and I'm not saying that he's going to come back right away because you got the ACL situation, but if he gets back, and Pat, yeah, call back in here, bro. Let's see. If he gets back and he's good enough, and we're just talking about adhering to the coaching style, not necessarily making DeMarvion Overshown a Pro Bowler in the second year. I think Demo will definitely adhere to that. Sark's not a guy that's easy on the ears either. So those guys are the obvious ones. Sam Williams and Demo to me are kind of the surprise ones. I had Osa there. Osa he wants to be coached up too. He really loves this thing. So that was another surprise one for me. We'll see if we can get Pat back on. In the meantime, in between time, let's get back to the mailbag segment and answer a few of these questions. He was cooking, though. He is cooking. Wait, that we might got him. Wait a minute. Let's see. Pat, you live? You good? All right, maybe it's me that can't hear. Hold on, then. Let's see. Audio. Back. Yeah, I'm hearing you so you're hearing me, but I can't hear you. Not really sure what happened there, brother. Which means I probably won't be able to hear anybody else for whatever reason. Not sure why this dropped like that. Very strange. Oh, wait. I don't know, everybody. You are unmuted. Apologies, y'all. Hold tight. Me and Pat going back and forth right here trying to figure this out. I got you. Preference. That was strange because we was working. Okay. All right. Well, appreciate Pat for coming through for this week's Scientific Method. Not really sure why this is not working at this moment. We got another call. Let me just see if it'll work for him. Bishop. Yeah, same thing. Bishop probably can hear me, but I can't hear him. All right, well, see, that's what happens when we do remote, man. Not quite sure what's good. Maybe we'll figure it out. If not, we'll just continue to operate, and I got you guys in the chat. Appreciate y'all for holding tight. Let's get back to it. Peter Matarazzo? Peter Matarazzo? Did I get that right? I'm guessing you Italian, Mr. Peter Matarazzo. He says, my question is twofold. First, was the plan last season to play big nickel and essentially use DBs for linebackers? That sounds like one question, but we'll separate here. Was the plan last season to play big nickel and essentially use DBs for linebackers? No, I don't think so. Let me say this. I think the plan was to play big nickel because they played big nickel the previous two seasons. So I will say that, right? Like, yes, they're going to play big nickel. That is what Dan Quinn built his Dallas Cowboys success on. Big nickel. We're going to bring J-Ron Curse down. You cover the tight ends. You're also going to play the run, more of an, I believe, an under front as opposed to an O. So, yes, I think that was the plan. Now, the second part of your question, and essentially use DBs as linebackers? No. I don't think that was the plan because they brought back LVE. Damone Clark was still here. They had Jabril. They had Devin Harper. They drafted DeMarvion Overshown. So they clearly wanted to use linebackers. Now, the type of linebackers that we agree with, maybe we're going to disagree with how they approached it, right, with their linebackers. But they wanted to use actual linebackers. Then, for whatever reason, DeMarvion Overshown goes down. They decide to turn to our guy here, Bell, and they roll with it. And to be fair to Bell, like I want to be fair to him, I'm not upset at him for being lost more than a handful of times, a good amount of times, because he made plays too, right? He showed you the athleticism. He showed you his coverage ability. He made some plays. But down in, down out, you had teams game planning to run at this guy. You had teams game planning to run at us because you didn't adequately prepare for the loss of all these linebackers. So now you got a will linebacker playing Mike, and you got a safety playing Will. What you think is going to happen, right? What do you think is going to happen? And you don't have any other linebackers on the team that you wanted to use at least. Malik Jefferson was. You could tell Malik Jefferson was pissed. So I don't think the plan was to use DBs at linebackers. That was maybe their plan C, and that's what they rolled with. But I do think the plan last season was to play big nickel. Yeah. I do think the plan was to play big nickel. And then finally, Jeremy, we're just going to call you Jeremy Kill. He says, what are your thoughts on how you can improve, or a question, what are your thoughts on how you can improve the run defense without changing what the defense was good at last year? So the defense was good at, pressures. Still was a top 10 team in taking the ball away. But what are the improvements in the run defense that you can do? To me, it's going to sound boring, and I'm going to sound like a broken record until we see it on the field. Just flat out, just being more disciplined and being more sound. That's it. Being more disciplined and being – now, that's just the schematic parts to it. From a personnel standpoint, we absolutely have to get bigger, stronger down the middle, right? You can't ask your nose tackle to lose 40 pounds and then you really only have one true big guy down the middle. Nah, you're going to need at least three of them things, right? So get stronger down the middle, get an actual linebacker, and do real run defense things in the middle of your defense. But I think the easiest way to do it when you add those players is to become more fundamentally sound. We showed the video footage yesterday, and if you go look at that defensive line, it's not like they had a bunch of, like I said, Aaron Donalds and Haloti Nahas up there. Just the fact that you're just doing your job. You heard what Zimmer said. I need these guys in the defensive tackle room and get legitimate linebackers, but also from a schematic standpoint, have a real sound plan to stop the run. They talk about it all the time. Hey, man, you got to earn your right to rush the passer. That's all talk to me, though, right? Like that's all talk from the coaching staff because they never really implemented the real things to do so. You can't talk that and then make your first-round pick nose tackle lose 40 pounds. You can't talk that and then get rid of two nose tackles in Quentin Bohanna and Ridgeway. You can't say, hey, we want to be stronger and tougher and earn the right to rush the passer. No, you didn't. You wanted to get out there and right now rush the passer. That's what you wanted to do. You wanted to get out there and take the ball. All you cared about was taking the ball away and rushing the passer. And then you wonder why your defensive linemen are playing that way. Well, that's because it's being taught that way. Absolutely love Joe Witt as a coach. But he said something the other day that I think, I don't want to say it's a detriment because his pressure was pretty damn good. But he talked about how, ball is life. It's all about the turnovers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And I'm like, man, that's exactly how we kind of play. we kind of play like, hey, it's all about the turnovers. Make the big splash play, get the turnover, and we're good to go because we put the ball back in our offense's hand. What if you can't, though? Are you sound enough? Are you stout enough? Are you dependable enough to be a run-stopping defense and make life a living hell on the quarterback, even if you aren't turning the ball over? I look at say a Ravens defense against the Chiefs. I know they lost the game, but if you go watch that game, they didn't force a turnover. But Pat only scored like one touchdown in that game. Now I think they scored a little more than that, but the point being is they scored 0 points in the second half. They were able to shut shit down without turning the ball over. How many times have the Cowboys been – how many times, seriously, how many times can you say over the last 3 years the Cowboys defense shut it down without turning the ball over? And what happens is you get these little Fugazi fans who will get mad at the offense. Oh, well, the offense, they can't do nothing if they don't turn the – what do you mean? Half the time, the reason why teams aren't running the ball on you is because the offense is scoring or have the threat to score. you are able to be a much more dependable defense and anywhere, anytime, anyhow, given the type of play or game, if you are sound, if you are disciplined, and if you hone in on those fundamentals. I love what Zimmer said. Zimmer said, to me, it's about being fundamentally sound, getting to the ball. And then once you get there, you arrive, you're physical, and we try to get these turnovers. But if you're not fundamentally sound, you know what's going to happen? Go look at Green Bay. And I understand it was mostly the pass game early. But go watch a handful of those plays where you got Marquise Bell just in wrong gaps. You got J-Ron Curse half the damn year not knowing what to do in zone defense. I mean, he going to say it's zone. I know what I'm doing. And he probably does. I'm just talking shit. But J-Ron Curse was out there with the biscuit hips on the roof trying to figure things out. Damone Clark, sometimes he hesitant. LVE, sometimes I'm hesitant. Give me a sound defense over the big play defense, because when the big plays aren't there, can you be reliable? And let's be real, Dallas wasn't. Dallas wasn't. And that kind of leads me into my hot take, honestly. If you give Mike Zimmer adequate resources, I think he will yield a top 10 run defense in yards per carry. Once again, if you give Mike Zimmer adequate resources, that's very important. I think he will yield a top 10 run defense in yards per carry. Why am I emphasizing yards per carry? Because I believe yards per carry holds a higher value than yards per game. We talked about this the other day. Your yards per game can be predicated on how well your offense is or how scary your offense is, forcing an opposing team to say, hey, man, we ain't dealing with this run. We got to try to score. Yards per carry is a different story. Don't matter if that's how they feel. Don't matter if they say, hey, we're going to be a running team. If you can be a dominant run defense again in the yards per carry category, that means you're consistent. That means whether you're blowing teams out or it's a close game from quarter 1 to 4, you're consistent. That means your defense is forcing them to be one-dimensional, not having to rely on the offense. And I feel like that was one of the problems with the Cowboys defense over 3 years. It was a good defense. I'm not saying it wasn't. Was it perfect? No. It wasn't perfect either. Was it elite? I'd argue no. I've told you I don't think it was elite, because I feel like to be an elite defense, you have to dictate things. Never felt like the Cowboys dictated things year in, year out to opposing offenses. I felt like our offense dictated things to the opposing offense. So you give Mike Zimmer real stout defensive tackle depth, real middle linebackers. Another important one here is to bring back, I think, Stephon, but that's a different discussion. I think he has a secondary. You bring back Steph. I think he will yield you a top 10 run defense in yards per carry. I do. That's my hot take, presented by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. It is Friday. If you guys are down here in the DFW area, more specifically in the downtown area, come through here in Deep Ellum and get you some lunch, get you some dinner, hit up DoorDash, Uber Eats, whatever, Postmates, whatever you use, and get you some Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Founded in Midtown down in Nashville in 2012, Hattie B's is renowned for its national authentic hot chicken. And they got all types of varying levels of heat, from medium to mild, hot to damn hot, and the Daredevil's dream. Shut the cluck up. Use the link in our description or visit HattieBees.com for your next order. And do me a favor, guys. We're still doing this for all these wonderful teachers. With your help, we want to give thanks and celebrate the amazing teachers around us for all of their incredible work that they do. If you know a teacher, doesn't have to be in the DFW area, anywhere where there's Hattie B's, nominate them with the description or with the link in the description, and Hattie B's will provide lunch up to 100 different chicken sandwiches for the winner and their entire faculty. That is Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Let's get to the chat here. See y'all talking about. Van said, love me some Hattie B's. Pull y'all up on my computer as opposed to my phone. There we go. Do you feel me on the run defense? Give me a stout middle of the defense and be more sound. Uh-oh. That's it. That's it. Uh-oh, did I? Am I froze? We good? When I see uh-oh and damn, I just assume we done lost. We done lost service. Oh, we back? We back? We straight? We good? We about to wrap this thing up. Anyway, do y'all feel me, though, on the run defense? Also, appreciate you guys. Ed from Twitter, David, Aaron, he in the chat. Shouts out to you. Peter Matarazzo, I think I said that right. And Jeremy over on Instagram. Really good questions. I really appreciate you guys with these questions because they were thought-provoking. And shouts out to my guy, Patrick No C Walker, who also killed it this morning. Okay, we good to go. Man, y'all the best, man. Y'all the best. Truly. One day, right, because of y'all support, I won't have to worry about this. We'll have the resources. We'll have the backing and all that stuff one day. So I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. I'm about to push that button, bruh. It's coming. No C was great. No C is great, yes. 100%, man. He's been like this for a long time. Even with CBS Sports, Pat has been killing Cowboys coverage. And when he got the job at .com, man, I was so happy for him because that was ironically a situation that I could have been in. But I think they absolutely picked the perfect person for it. And this is where I belong, in my opinion. I belong talking to y'all. Toxic. Relax. Let's not go there, man. Let's not go there. All right, look. Next week, we are going to bring back our free agent primer. We'll do likely an episode or two. I was talking to Foots. We're going to get back into the draft coverage here around Combine time. We got Combine in about 10 days. It stretches from February 26th to the 4th. So once we get around Combine, we will be tuning back into the draft coverage. Until then, we will continue to ramp up this offseason coverage, looking at potential free agents the Cowboys can bring in. And I think the main thing here, and I didn't get a chance to get to it with Pat, was how does Mike Zimmer fill out this roster? I shouldn't say roster. Fill out the coaching staff roster. I really wanted to get his insight on that, but it's all good. We'll get him back next week, and maybe we'll have some news. I'm hoping personally that this thing gets done by midweek next week or at the very least the end of next week. I would hate for the defensive coordinator position to drag out for a month and then the assistants positions to drag out for another week or two because we have to start seeing what this D-line coach or if it's a new linebacker coach or whomever it is, what these coaches prefer with a Mike Zimmer so that we can go scout them, we can go sign them because free agency's in a month. However, Dallas usually waits to that first wave. They love to do that anyway. So good stuff today. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Cowboys hard hitter. It damn sure ain't easy when these things gets crazy around you, but I appreciate y'all. I really do. It means a whole lot, man. Make sure y'all have a safe, fun weekend. Don't do nothing I wouldn't do, Cowboys Nation. All right? And if you missed the show, y'all know what it is. Become a part of the hashtag running back game. All right? Let me press this damn button. The different button, though, because I don't got the other one. Crazy. You got to relax with these names, man. Y'all remember what happened last time y'all was throwing these names around, King Element and Toxic? All those bots was coming in here. Yeah. We out of here, man. Love y'all. Peace. Where JR talking about the blue chew? Y'all crazy, man. Y'all crazy.
Bomb Squad!